Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and I have a really fun project for you. We're going to be swapping the OEM mirror in my BMW M2 Competition for the mirror out of the brand new G20 and G80s. Alright, so the project itself isn't going to take it much beyond a few simple tools, but the most important thing you're going to need to do is actually find the correct mirror for your car. So you're going to need a couple of things. So first of all, you're going to need to take the VIN out of your car and put them in one of those VIN decoder services that you see all over the place. And they should be free. Don't go to any of the places that you have to pay for it. And it's going to give you an option list out of everything out of your car. So what you're gonna have to look for is things like rain sensing wipers, and if you have, like, for example, the automatic high beams and all those different sort of things and all the different codes that you're gonna see, like, 300, or 351A or 405A or whatever that happens to be. So you'll take that, armed with all of that information, you'll go to Real OEM and actually look up the specific part number of what you're looking for. So what I did is I actually went to Real OEM, looked up a brand new G20, and went down through their rear view mirror list to find the exact right part number that had the matching feature codes from my car. So in my car, for example, the automatic high beams, and the code is like a 530A or something like that for the code option. But I went all the way down the list to find the G20 mirror that had the exact same functions that my car does. Then I've got the part number for the mirror. Now, this is not a cheap thing to do. So if you go out and if you buy a new one, it's going to be really expensive. I got really lucky and I found one really cheap off of eBay, off of a wrecked car, and it's in perfect shape. And I got it for actually significantly less than retail. I got it for about 30% retail. So if this is a project you want to look to do, look around. Check out all your different options to get one off of a wrecked car, and then you can get one cheap, because the rearview mirror is probably going to be okay on a car that's taking a front end, taking front end damage, right? So shop around, find the right part. So armed with all of that information, because to do this, you want to do it right. You want to make sure that your car is set up properly and it doesn't have any problems. So you're going to have to find the right part number, which is what I did, and I got really lucky. And it was eBay out of Germany, of all things. So find your right part, and then I'm going to walk you through the process to do it. Doing the work is actually not all that hard, and I'll show you how you can do it yourself. Okay, so really quickly before we get started, because we're going to take this outer shield off first, but you might actually be asking yourself why you want to change this mirror out. I mean, the mirror's great, but the new mirror and the new G20s and the G80s, and actually I believe the new X3 as well, is substantially different. So not only is it a different shape, but it is substantially larger. So I haven't worked out the math or geometry of how much bigger this mirror is, but it's significantly bigger. Plus it has this borderless surround, or especially in the M2, you have this big, huge, thick border around the mirror. So it's really a different change. Now the other thing is also it no longer has this big dome sort of car security light on it that blinks. It's actually a different design now entirely, and will still blink, but it's a different shape, this horseshoe shape underneath, so it doesn't stick out so dramatically, right? So as you can see, so really quite a bit of difference between the two. So bigger mirror, more functional, and actually looks just a little bit better. So that's the reason why I'm going to change this out. So the very first thing we want to do, and I'm going to get set up so you can see it, is we're going to want to take this top cover off, and we're going to have to split it. So you're going to want to make sure to have a set of plastic trim tools handy so you can do that work, and let me show you how it's done. So the irony is it's actually kind of hard to find a place to have a good camera angle on this, right? Because you're looking up into the mirror. So your mirror, you're going to want to turn and make sure that it's out of the way. So I'm just going to get it down and out of the way for right at the moment. And then you've got your cover here that's just split down the middle, and you have to just gently pull that apart. So in looking at this, what I'm going to use is my plastic trim tool, which you can tell I've broken part of it off. I'm going to take the narrowest part of my plastic trim tool right here, and forgive the shadows, but right here where the body of this plastic meets the roof liner seems to be the easiest place where if I separate it a little bit with my fingers, I can actually start to get my tool in here to start to separate this. So all I'm going to do is just slowly work this to get this cover to separate, just like that. So now that it's popped apart, it should just come apart. Now keep in mind it's locked all the way down. So there you go. So really simple, really easy. It's just a series of pins and locks throughout. And I changed this mirror cover in my F32 when I put on my forward-facing camera that was embedded up here in this cover, which was kind of cool. So now you can see this whole mount setup right here that you have for the mirror itself. Now let me grab the new mirror here so you can see a little bit better. As you can see, it's mounted here with a plug that's here. There's a plug here and a plug here on the new one, obviously. And then there's this bracket clip, okay? So they talk about, and as you look at the guides and all the information on this, you want to be really careful. So I'm going to over-stress this before we do anything, because breaking your windshield would suck. So they talk about doing this when your windshield's not hot. So you shouldn't be like super cold. So if it's middle of winter, don't do this. If it's middle of summer and you're sitting in the sun, don't do it. Make sure your windshield is a good, just even, even temperature, right? And the other thing they talk about is not pulling on this. Don't pull on this to apply all kinds of stress here to this connection. What you want to do is press down parallel to the car. You want to push it down and away. And you've got this, all the cabling here as well, so keep in mind you still have all this cabling plugged in. But using the new one as an example, you can see what holds your mirror in place are these two clips right here that sit around and are holding on to the mount on the actual windshield. So what you're trying to do is take this and slide it down that mount and off. Okay, so be careful when you do that. I really want to stress it. I'd hate for something, a real simple, quick, easy DIY to do some damage to your car. I know I'd be bummed for you. I certainly would be bummed if I did it. So you've got your plug-in right here as well that if you wanted, you could always pull early. It is this big, should be like a 12-pin plug, I believe. Okay, and you can see how it separates a little bit, even as I just pressed a little bit of pressure there. So again, you want to be really careful as you do this to separate this mirror away and not do damage to your windshield. If you wanted, you could press the little tab here on your plug for the mirror and actually pull it out. There's also the module back behind it, and you can see a little bit of a magenta plug right there. That's not the plug we're going for. It's actually the plug in front of that right here. This is the actual plug for the mirror. But there's a fair amount of slack there, so as you slide this off and you're careful about it, you can probably do it without unplugging it. Okay, so take it, just work this forward, work it down, just like that. Just like that, and the plug came off too. Just like that, nice and simple. Okay, so I actually was going to show you in a second, but that came right off. So all good. So sometimes you capture things live that you didn't intend. Okay, so you've got your new plug here as well, and we're going to be transferring all of the order of all of these cables from this into the new one, and I'll show you what to do next. We're also going to be pulling the mount off because we're going to be using the mount from the current one on the new one. So let's go ahead and take your mirror, take it to a safe place, and I'll show you what's next. Okay, so now here comes probably one of the most nerve-wracking parts of all of this, is you actually need to take the base off. So a couple of things first, and if you need to, take a picture of the wire of the plug loadout right here. Now you can have a couple of opportunities on what the plugs look like. Now I've already loosened the base on the new mirror, and the interesting thing again is you can just see the huge difference between these mirrors as it's sitting here, right? I mean, difference in thickness and width, the whole 9 yards. So what you need to do is you need to get this base loose from the mirror. I've got it sitting on a good surface, sitting on a towel so I don't scratch the mirrors up. And because what we need to do is we're going to swap the base from the old one to the new one, and we have to swap the wires in the plug. So because the wires in the new one is a single row of 6 pins. Now if you look, all the wire colors are exactly the same, where the current one is this big 2 rows of 6, or it's like 1 row of 10 or whatever it is. But this plug is laid out differently, as you can see. The pins are different, but the cables are exactly the same. So the wires are exactly the same. So all we have to do is transfer it. So you want to set this down on a hard surface. What you can also do is I soaked a little bit of WD-40 on a paper towel and just gently wipe it around the ball base, right? Wipe it around there to give it a little bit to come out, because this is the part that's going to be a little nerve-wracking, and you want to be careful because you don't want to break anything, but you have to apply more pressure than you probably want to apply. So you have to do is hold it down firmly and pull, and you can feel it as I rock my camera. Sorry about that. Okay, it's out just like that. Okay, so this is loose and we're going to transfer it. The new one is loose because we're going to be transferring this to the new one, but we have to pull the plugs and pull the wires. Now, in most cases, these plugs don't want to back down, because what I'd love to be able to do is walk them out of the neck of this, right? But what we're probably going to have to do is push the plugs forward so we can actually get to the actual pins themselves and back the pins out. So let me get this all set up and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so here's where you're going to want to back all of these pins out, and it's going to be a two-stage process. I've got myself a little pick. There also is a pin out tools with these little sleeves that can go in and back these pins out really easily, and candidly I should probably buy one of those these days. One of these days. So the other thing you want to note is pin position. Where are the wires from the new mirror going to go into this plug? And so you want to treat this plug very gently because we're going to reuse it. There are two locking plates, little lift up locking plates, one right here that hold the top wires in and hold the bottom wires in. So we're gonna pull that up. We got to pull that locking plate up. Okay, so we're gonna do that in just a second. But the other thing you want to notice is wire position. So I'm going to call this top row position 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The bottom row 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you can always write down like I just did. So pin 1 is brown, pin 2 is blue, pin 5 is white with the tracer. Down at the bottom, pin 6, bottom row, is red, and the rest is empty. Okay? And you just want to make sure you hang on to that so you know how to change the pin out. So all you're going to need to do is just work your way in and pop up this little cover. Once this cover is up, you're going to see where each one of these pins has a metal sleeve with a little tab on it. So the sleeve comes in and there's a little tab that sits on top. Once this locking plate is lifted, you just down press on the little tab on the sleeve and then very carefully back the wire out. Now you'll have to do that for the top row, and then you'll have to do it again for the bottom row for the red wire. Okay, hopefully that all makes sense. Then what you want to do is you're going to want to repeat it on the new mirror just to strip the existing plug off, and you should have your 4 wires all hanging there, and then we're going to transfer this base. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out. So let me unlock this cover, and I'll show you on a couple of the pins on what it looks like to take them out. Okay, so it's a lot easier to see to the eye than it is the camera, but as you can see, the cover is lifted. Be very careful when you lift this cover. It's hinged on the back, and this cover is pretty important in helping to keep these plugs in. So be very gentle when you lift it, and don't wear out that plastic and lose your cover. Okay, as you look down in here, you should see 1, 2, and 3, so positions 1, 2, and 5. You should see the metal contacts for these wires, and there's little tabs on top, so you're going to depress that tab, and you can use a pick tool or you can use the appropriate kind of that wire pin removal tool that would feed in from the other side, and then just back these out, because there are these little locking bumps that you just depress, and then they start to walk out, and you can see to the eye that the pin starts to walk its way back out. So the brown one is almost out entirely. So let's start on the blue one. I'm kind of depressing on the little tab, walking the blue one out. And again, you want to be gentle because we're reusing all these connections, right? So if you break off these tabs, it's going to give you a problem when you put them in the new plug housing, right? So back all of these out, and then you'll have the bare wires. Once you have the bare wires, you can pull the base off entirely because the wires will come back down the neck, right, of the base. And that's what we're going to feed back up here in just a second. Okay, so when you're done, it should end up looking like this, okay? And then you can just work this off and just work all of these pins out and take the base off. Now take your base, because this is your base you're going to want to use on the new mirror. So take this and set it aside. Make sure not to confuse the two. The one other thing I wanted to point out is which way is up on this plug, right? And up, by up orientation, because what you wouldn't want to do is wire it backwards. Up orientation in the car is with the writing upwards towards the roof. So the top where the writing is, because the other side doesn't have writing, is up. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so I've got it off. Here's the new mirror. I've got the wires loose, and the new mirror takes a little bit more time because it's a little bit harder space to work in. But you've got all 4 of your pins that you're going to want to transfer into the new plug. You've got your original mount, and this plug should go in this orientation, obviously. with the writing up on the top. So you've got your pinout of brown, blue, white with the tracer here across the top with the red in the middle. So I'm probably going to start with the red in the bottom first. So slide the red into that middle pin, position 3, and then put the brown, the blue, and the white in the rest. Now, before we do that, obviously you've got to feed it up through the neck first. So feed it up through the neck, out through the hole, and then feed the pins in the correct orientation back in your plug, and lock these little locks down to make sure that those pins stay in place. Okay, and then we'll look to press the neck back into place. And it's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm not going to simulate right now because obviously I still need to transfer the plug. But all we're going to do is just gently wiggle this back into place until the ball goes back in the socket. Okay, so I want to change the order up a little bit. If you couldn't tell, the base is in, okay, or the neck is in. So what I found is that the neck out, took out some of my length of my cable because the neck is taller than it's supposed to be and the cable is pretty short. So I wanted to have enough cable to be able to work with. Now, pressing the neck, or pressing this mount neck back in, is a little nerve-wracking, I will freely admit. It's easier to get out because you can kind of get that side leverage and very gently press side leverage to get it out. Pressing in, you have to press down. And you have to press down until it makes it past all of the plastic clips that fit in here. Now again, you can put a little bit of WD-40 or something similar on the ball to help out a little bit to put it in. But what I did is I took a mirror, and it's obviously sitting on a towel on a hard surface. I put a towel over the top of the mount and pressed, and it took took more force than I would have liked, candidly, to get it back in. But there will be a pop as it goes back into place, and it's fine. So I would actually get the neck in first before you put the plug back on. Okay, so now, and like I said, I'm going to start with the red wire first. So you've got the top with the writing, you've got the bottom that's bare. The red goes into position 3 on the bottom. So all you do is you just separate the red out. Make sure that your little locking collars are up. So that's the top, that's the bottom. And you would just slide it into position 3 in the middle, okay? And the cable's only, or the wire, excuse me, is only going to go in really in one orientation because of the tooth on that pin itself, okay? So just take it, and it's already partially in place. Take it and slide it all the way up until it clicks. And there was a very, very faint click as it went all the way in. Now, before you lock this locking plate down, make sure to look and confirm, make sure it's all the way in, that the pin is all the way in, looking in there, which is probably hard to see on camera, but it is in all the way. So then you can take this locking collar, whoops, as I almost locked the other side back down. You can take it and lock it back down, which will hold that in place, okay? Then you're gonna take the top and you're gonna put the rest in the exact same position. So really, really easy. Might be a little bit hard to see right now, but one of the things you can do is take a very small pair of needle nose pliers. And let's see if I can turn. So, because sometimes making sure that the pin's in all the way can be a little bit of a problem. So you can grab the wire itself and push it up in. Like I said, most of the time there should be a little click because of the barb that's on that pin contact. So you just want to make sure that all your wires are in as they should be. Yeah, it's a little hard to see, I'm sorry. But just make sure that all of them are in, because the last thing you want to do is go through all of this and have like one pin that's too far back, so that doesn't plug in, right? So double and triple check to make sure that all your pins are in the right length, and then lock this back down. You can push the plug back into its normal position, and then all we have to do is go back out to the car and hang the new mirror. Okay, with the new, stock or neck or, mount for your mirror transferred and the plug transferred, you're pretty much almost good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug it in now, because it's probably be easier to do now. So there you go, just like that. And then just take it and work the clips back onto this mount, and then just slide it upwards to get it up into the right spot. Now, it's still a little bit loose, so this could be a matter of just working it gently. And like I said with this, you want to be very, very gentle when you do this to make sure it gets all the way back up into the correct position, okay? But all in all, it's really that straightforward. So once you have the mount all the way back up where it should be, all you're gonna do is take that clamshell outer cover that just snaps from both sides and snap it around, and just snap it around your base, and you're all done. Okay, just a quick snapshot that it's on. Obviously the mirror's filthy with my fingerprints at this point, but the cover's on, and it's just really simple. I just brought it up from the bottom, kind of fed the bottom together, and it clicks, and then clamshelled it around the rest and just snapped it together, and it clicked. So it's all done. So now all you need to do is, in my case, clean up my mirror, and then make sure and test all of your functionality. Make sure that you transfer the wires appropriately, that all your pins and plugs work. And again, I want to really emphasize that in the description of the video will be a link to real OEM. You'll want to get the proper product number. I'll list the mirror that I used for my car, but don't assume that that's the correct one for your car. Make sure to check it out. All right, so all done, as you can see, and really not that hard when it comes down to it. And you almost need no tools at all. You really just need a set of plastic trim tools and a pick, really, to do the job. So super simple. And again, I just want to stress, make sure, if you're going to do this, make sure you get the correct mirror. You got to decode your VIN. You have to go to like real OEM and look up the correct part number out of a G20 or a G80 series that's actually going to fit. And I believe the mirrors from the X3s are the same as well. So there's a couple of different generations. But look up your codes, look up your feature codes in your car, compare them against what's in real OEM, and then good luck on the hunt. Go out and find yourself a mirror off maybe a wrecked one, you know, maybe out of eBay or off eBay or a Craigslist or something similar, and you can do this conversion as well. Now, obviously, I've got a little bit of testing left to do, but everything else works. And really the last thing I have to test is make sure that the security system blinks properly and that the automatic headlights or automatic high beams work properly, but I am 100% confident they will. So, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this gave you some inspiration to do this kind of project on your car as well. And please make sure to click subscribe and the little alarm bell. It makes a huge difference to my channel. And I'll see you on my next video.